Hi, I'm Mitch Hagan, and today I'm launching my watch collecting YouTube channel. Welcome to the Watchmosphere. We've got a lot to talk about. So, how did I get into watch collecting? Well, when I was 6 years old, I found a watch at Sears with my mom. It was a Minnie Mouse watch. There was also a Mickey Mouse watch, and while Mickey was cute, Minnie watch chimed, and that was fascinating to me because my parents had friends who had a cuckoo clock, and they had friends who had a grandfather clock, and that was really fascinating that a watch or what clock could do that. And so when I found this watch that chimed, that was fascinating. Plus, I always liked Minnie. She's pretty sassy. So my mom got that for me for my seventh birthday, and I wore that watch to death. I don't know where it is now. I think it's lost to the ages, but it's probably somewhere in my parents' house. But that got me really started into watch collecting. When I was in, I think, 12 years old, my grandparents got me a Timex, and then they got me another one, I think, when I was 14 or 15. Both my grandparents were big watch collecting people. They really loved Bulova watches, and I have an affection for that brand because all of my great aunts and uncles and my grandparents were Bulova. But what really got my watch collection started was in the 80s when I was in high school when Swatch came out. So I have four watches from the 80s and early 90s. My 1985 Pinstripe was the first watch I bought, and I wore that watch to death. My second watch I bought probably within the same year was the 85 collection was McGregor. McGregor was very much a featured watch in Swatch's advertising at the time. And I believe that McGregor was the first maxi watch as well, too. I'm not sure. But what I really wanted was the one called Sir Watch, and that was never available. Couldn't find it anywhere, and I always looked for it. But I got the McGregor because I'd been wearing the pinstripe so much that I was wearing it at work. I was wearing it. I was working at a restaurant. It was dove into soapy hot water and reached into ovens and mopped floors and all kinds of stuff wearing that watch. And I thought, well, it was greasy all the time. Actually, I had to use Dawn dishwashing soap to get the grease off of it. And I thought, well, I wanted something that wouldn't get as beat up. I wouldn't wear it at work. And then in 1986, the 86 collection featured Nautilus. And Nautilus was a centerpiece watch for that collection, and they used it in the advertising as well. To this day, that is the Swatch I get the most compliments on. In fact, when I brought it into the Swatch store to get a new strap for it, all of the workers there at the Swatch store declared that it was sick. So I'm assuming that's a good thing. I eventually went out and got another watch called the Scuba Doo. That was from the 90 collection. And then started moving into collecting into fossil watches and really went down a rabbit hole of fashion watches and did this specifically because that's what I could afford. Over time, then I had a mix of Swatch, fossil, a diesel watch in there, and Timex. I had a party though when I bought my first condo, and the way my condo was relatively small, and I set up my bedroom to be sort of like a lounge area because I just needed the overflow. And I had a carefully curated list of 16 people I had invited. I don't remember what this party was for, but people were at the last minute saying, "Hey, my brother or sister's best friend's dog is in town. Can they join too?" And so I just would say, yeah. So what started as a very curated list of people I knew blew up to about, I don't know, 45, 50 people, most of whom I didn't know. I had one watch that I had planned on wearing that night, and I had it in my bathroom drawer. It was a fossil watch called Architect, and it was a tank watch style. It had a beautiful blue dial. And I was going to go get that. And I never went to the bathroom to get it. By the time people started coming over, I just didn't put it on. And when the party was over, I went back into the bathroom and it wasn't in there. And I thought, oh, I must have put it in my watch box and maybe it was in there. And I had my watch box. I had taken it and put it off my dresser and put it into a dresser drawer. Didn't think about it the next day. I went back to opened the drawer to get the watch box out, and my entire watch collection had been stolen. Now, again, fossil, Timex, a diesel watch, and then that one Architect watch from fossil. But it kind of took the wind out of my sails a little bit on watch collecting, and I shifted into collecting clocks, specifically clocks from the 1920s, 30s, 40s, maybe even into the 50s a little bit. And then I really got big into pottery collecting. So my watch collecting sort of backed off. I always wore a watch, but I wasn't really putting a lot of investment in it at the time. Um, then somewhere around the mid aughts, I started following Gilt and Touch of Modern, and they would push watches through. I bought a Sterling watch that I really loved, and I initially thought I only had it for 6 years when it stopped working, and that kind of bummed me out. Actually, I'd had it for a much longer time. I just didn't realize that. But that was when I sort of stepped back and said, I'm not doing this fashion watch thing anymore. I'm going to go ahead and make an investment in watches. And from there, then I went back to my beloved Bulova, along with Citizen, Seiko, and then have been really discovering micro brands. Like today, I'm wearing my Faro and Company watch, and really, this is the race watch and automatic in red. Just love this watch, and that's sort of the micro brands now is where I'm really focused. I do have some other watches from again Seiko, Citizen, Bulova, and also I've picked up a few more Swatch watches since then. But the micro brands to me is where the excitement is. And so that's really where my watch collection has gone. And now I would describe myself as a three-figure collector. But I've started this channel specifically for the three-figure collector because what I'm seeing now in what I call the Watchmosphere, which is all of this social media conversation happening around watches, what I'm seeing and hearing is a normalization of the most affordable $5,000 watches or the best value $10,000 watches. And there's the normalization that somehow that in order to have a watch collection, that's what you have to do. There's a lot of gatekeeping in this too. I see there's a lot of there's some people, not a lot. There's some people who are describe Bulova as shite. I take offense to that, especially when that same person is saying they would buy Citizen, Seiko, and Tissot. They all have the same business model, exactly the same business model. They all come in at an entry point. They all have tiers of pricing. And to say that is to me just kind of immature and lacking in understanding of what the consumer brands do and how they go to market. So I wanted to really come in and talk to the not necessarily just the entry level watch collector, but also watch collectors like me who really are uncomfortable paying more than three figures for a watch. Now, to say that I would do that, I would do that. There are some watches in my list that I would like that are over $1,000. One is over two. One of them I particularly like is over five. And so would I do that? I have to debate that. I don't know. But for me, I think to say that you don't have a watch collection if you don't have a Rolex, or you don't have a watch collection if all your watches are quartz, or most of them are quartz, or that somehow those ultra luxury brands are the only thing that is worthy of a collection, to me, shuts off the conversation for everyone. And I just don't think that it's appropriate. So I want to be a voice for those of us who follow a philosophy on watch collection that we hit watch pricing at what I would call reasonable pricing, not what I would call entry level. Because I think that implies that if you're going in at three figures, there's still others. You're going to eventually go up higher. And I personally don't buy that. So that's kind of where I'm kind of coming from today. This is what what the channel is going to be. So please join me on this journey. I think it'll be a lot of fun. I have a lot to talk about. Anybody who knows me knows I have a lot of opinions. So yeah, join me in the Watchmosphere. We'll see you next time. Thanks.